Have you ever wondered what the one lesson is that takes a lifetime to learn? What's the truth people only discover when they're old, gray, and staring back at decades of choices? If you're watching this, I want you to imagine being 80 years old with most of your days already lived. What would you wish you knew earlier? What truth would you shout to your younger self if you had the chance? My name is Jeffrey, and at 80 years old, I finally understand something that took me 50 years to learn. And if you spend the next few minutes with me, I promise the lesson I discovered might change the way you live your life starting today. But first, I want to ask you a question. What is the thing you are putting off right now because you think you have time? The dream you haven't started. The relationship you haven't healed. The risk you haven't taken. The goals you keep promising yourself you'll chase someday. Well, I used to think that way too. And the truth is that mindset almost cost me everything that truly matters. Let me take you back to when I was 30 years old. I had energy, ambition, a career that was doing well, and a family that loved me. But like most of us in our 20s and 30s, I believed I had all the time in the world. I believed life was long, predictable, and safe. If I wanted to start a business, I thought I would do it later. If I wanted to travel the world, I would wait until retirement. If I wanted to tell someone I loved them, I assumed there would always be another moment. Every choice I made was rooted in patience. The kind of patience that quietly steals your best years while convincing you it's acting in your favor. I was patient with my dreams, patient with my relationships, patient with my happiness, and patient with my courage. I didn't realize that patience without urgency is procrastination wearing a nice outfit. I didn't realize that time is the only resource you can never earn back. And I didn't realize that my most precious moments were disappearing one decision at a time. One Saturday morning, when I was about 35, I woke up with a strange feeling that I had lost something important. I couldn't put a name to it. It wasn't depression, and it wasn't sadness. It was something deeper. A whisper inside my mind telling me that if I kept living the way I was living, I would reach 50, 60, even 70 years old without ever truly living at all. I remember sitting at my kitchen table, staring at my untouched travel brochures and unopened journals, and thinking to myself, what am I waiting for? The answer I gave myself that day was everything. Everything I was waiting for felt like it needed more preparation, more money, more perfect timing. I told myself, I'll start tomorrow, but tomorrow turned into months, and months turned into years. I told myself I was building stability. I told myself life gets easier with time. I told myself I was being responsible. Yet every time I told myself these lies, my dreams quietly faded. Looking around at my life in my mid-30s, I realized I was living a version of existence instead of truly living. I was going through the motions, ticking boxes, and following the safe path that society had shown me. Get a degree. Find steady work. Save for retirement. Repeat. There is nothing inherently wrong with these goals. But when these goals become the only goals you chase, you lose sight of the colors and experiences that make life worth living. I remember thinking, if I continue like this, I will grow old having never chased my true ambitions. I knew deep inside that I had to make a change, but changing isn't easy when fear sits in the driver's seat. So I asked myself another question. What am I really afraid of? I thought of all the possible answers. I'm afraid of failing. I'm afraid of judgment. I'm afraid of losing stability. I'm afraid I won't succeed, and then I'll regret trying. But one day, a truth hit me that changed everything. I realized that the fear of trying and failing is nothing compared to the regret of never trying at all. The fear of failure is temporary. The weight of regret lasts a lifetime. That moment was the beginning of the lesson I would spend 50 years learning. So I started small. Not with some grand plan, not with everything perfectly aligned, but with one decision that changed my course. I started prioritizing experiences over excuses. I started valuing moments over perfection. I started chasing the things that made my heart burn with excitement. And you know what happened? Some things worked out beautifully, and some things didn't. In fact, many things didn't. I failed more times than I succeeded. I had disappointments, heartbreaks, and dead ends. But every time life pushed me down, I got back up with a stronger understanding of who I was and what I wanted. And that, my friends, is where the real learning began. You see, success is not defined by how many times you win. Success is defined by how many times you rise after the fall. Now, I want to tell you about another lesson I discovered in my 40s, because this one might be the one that will save you years of confusion and frustration. For most of my young adulthood, I believed that life would become easier once I achieved certain things. One day I thought, I'll be happy when I have a bigger house. One day, I'll be content when I have more money. One day, I'll be fulfilled when I have status. But here is the hard truth. Happiness does not come after you check off your achievements. Happiness comes in the way you live between those achievements. Happiness is found in the moments you chase what matters, not the moments you wait for the perfect conditions. I learned that a life lived waiting for happiness is a life that never truly feels alive. And that learning was hard-earned. Because for years I believed the lie that happiness was a destination. But happiness is not a destination. Happiness is a way of traveling through life. And life only becomes more meaningful when you stop waiting for someday and start living today. You might be thinking, that sounds great, Jeffrey, but what does that mean for me? If you ask yourself that question right now, I want you to be honest with your answer. It is easy to say you want to live fully. It is another thing to act on it. Here is the part that most people never understand. What you do today matters. Not tomorrow. Not next year. Today. Because time moves forward, not backward. Once a day passes, you can never get it back. That simple truth is what took me 50 years to really sink in. And here is the question I want you to ask yourself every time you hesitate. Would you rather look back years from now and say, I tried, or say, I wish I had tried? This is a question that separates ordinary lives from extraordinary ones. Now I know you might be thinking that this advice applies to big dreams and big decisions. But here is the thing, the way you live your small days becomes the way you live your big life. The decisions you make every morning, the way you spend your minutes and hours, these are the moments that shape your destiny. I want you to stay with me because in the next part we will explore even deeper truths. Truths about relationships, regrets, and the real purpose of life that I only understood when I was much older. As I moved into my 50s, another truth revealed itself, one that I wish someone had forced me to understand much earlier. Time does not just pass. It accelerates. One day you are 30, thinking life has barely begun. Then you blink, and you are 50, wondering where the years went. In your 20s, a year feels long. In your 40s, it disappears. By the time you reach 70, a year feels like a season. I remembered the exact moment this realization hit me. I was attending a small family gathering, surrounded by people I loved. I looked around the room and noticed how much everyone had changed. Parents had aged. Children had grown. Some faces were missing altogether. And suddenly, I understood something terrifying. Life was not slowing down. It was speeding up. That was the moment I realized how dangerously easy it is to postpone what truly matters. I had postponed deep conversations because I assumed people would always be there. I had postponed forgiveness because I believed there would be time later. I had postponed presence, thinking my responsibilities were more urgent. And then one day, some of those people were gone. No warning, no final conversation, no second chance. That is when I learned that love, connection, and presence are not things you schedule for later. They are things you practice now, or you lose them forever. Let me tell you something most people will never say out loud. At 80 years old, I do not regret the risks I took. I regret the moments I was emotionally absent. I regret the conversations I rushed. I regret the times I chose comfort over connection. Because achievements fade, but memories do not. Money comes and goes, but moments are permanent. Another lesson I learned far too late is this: no one is coming to save you. When you are young, you believe someone will eventually give you permission. Permission to chase your dream. Permission to be yourself. Permission to change your life. But that permission never comes. Life does not tap you on the shoulder and say, "Now it's your turn." You have to decide that for yourself. I spent years waiting for clarity before taking action. What I eventually learned is that clarity comes from action, not the other way around. You do not need to know every step. You only need to take the first one. And once you do, the path begins to reveal itself. I also learned that comparison is one of the fastest ways to ruin your life. For years, I compared my progress to others. I compared my income, my success, my lifestyle. And every time I did, I felt behind. But here's the truth I discovered too late. Everyone is running a different race, with different starting points, different obstacles, and different finish lines. The only comparison that matters is between who you were yesterday and who you are becoming today. Once I stopped measuring my life against others, I finally found peace. Another powerful lesson came from watching people around me grow older. Some aged with bitterness, some aged with wisdom. The difference was not luck. It was attitude. Those who grew bitter focused on what life took from them. Those who grew wise focused on what life taught them. I decided, even late in life, that I would choose wisdom over bitterness. And that choice changed everything. Let me talk to you about fear for a moment. Fear never disappears. At 80, I still feel fear. The difference is that I no longer let it decide my life. Fear is not a stop sign. It is a compass. It points toward the things that matter most. If something scares you, it usually means it has the potential to change you. Avoiding fear shrinks your world. Facing it expands your life. I learned that courage is not the absence of fear. It is the decision that something else matters more. And here is perhaps the most important lesson of all. Life is not about finding yourself. It is about choosing yourself, choosing your values, choosing your priorities, choosing how you spend your time. Every single day, you are casting votes for the person you are becoming, and those votes add up. Now, I want to speak directly to you. Yes, you. If you are young, do not waste your years waiting for perfect conditions. They do not exist. If you are struggling, know that struggle does not mean you are failing. It means you are growing. If you feel lost, understand that feeling lost often means you are on the edge of something new. Do not measure your life by how safe it looks. Measure it by how true it feels. If I could go back and speak to my younger self, I would say this: stop waiting. Stop overthinking. Stop living for approval. Start living with intention. Start having the hard conversations. Start choosing courage over comfort. Because one day you will be 80, sitting quietly with your thoughts. And the only thing you will wish for is not more time, but more meaningful use of the time you had. Let me leave you with this. You do not need 50 years to learn what I learned. You can learn it now. Life is fragile. Time is fast. And the present moment is all you truly own. Do not waste it. Live today like the person you want to become is watching. Because one day they will be. And that day comes faster than you think.